Local 500, the fire department. We have to have, and this is probably overstepping a little bit because the law director does not report to us, but we have to have the right representative in that negotiation or in that proceeding or in that arbitration that allows East Cleveland to not be on the bottom of the ticket when it regards, what are the parameters or the regulations or stipulations set forth by that contract. East Cleveland has been through too much litigation regarding where we have broken a contract or broken a particular agreement. So from my aspect as a member of council, I will continue to urge that the contracts be carefully examined and we have the right set of parameters that works for both aisles of the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Mrs. Gowdy, what is your knowledge concerning contracts and negotiation?
Well, I would look at the background and seeing what they is able to do, because they did a lot of contracting, but the city is looking like a dump. And it's sad because our dump is not good for our elderlies, it's not good for us, and it's not doing nobody no good in breathing. So the contract that you sign, you really have to go behind them and make sure that they follow up with what you had agreed on. Because if you don't follow up, it's going to be a dump again. And people is going to jail because of dumps. And in order for us to get on track, by law, council supposed to be operating with the lawgiver, to make sure that even if the law, if the lawyer or the law don't get involved with this city, it's going to always look like a dump. And you got to follow up on what people say. Just don't take their word saying that we're going to open up something and we signing it off, and it's become tragedy to our city. So if I become council, I would look into that before we even go into agreement to see what they have done in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gowdy. Mrs. Thomas, what is your knowledge concerning contracts and negotiation?
Mr. Mays, as a past labor leader and a past trustee on the Ohio retirement system, I have negotiated so many contracts, it's unbelievable. The last contract that I negotiated for Metro Health was the fact that we needed an apprenticeship program. I negotiated that apprenticeship program, and everybody was able to get involved in that apprenticeship program, black, white, Hispanic, and all. They got a raise, they got all the things, the necessary things that they needed. Labor contracts and other contracts are the same. You have to follow the law. You have to be engaged in what is happening at the law. It's not just listening and going back and trying to redo something. You have to deal with what is and what is not. And sometimes when you negotiate a contract, that doesn't mean that that contract is upheld. You have to go back and redo something, because the language you might have had a loophole in the language, just like it is up with the government of the United States, where you are talking about voting and all of that. You had a law in place, but now they're trying to take away your right to vote. And you have to go back and do some more legwork. They took away all the things that you had before that had been negotiated by the Democratic and the Republican, and it's not happening. And in the East Cleveland negotiation, I look at negotiating and the contracts and do what we can do to make it work.
Thank you, Thomas. Hold the phone. Hold the mic. If there is no rebuttal, you can hold the mic. Is there any rebuttal? It's seeing none. The next question goes to you, Mr. Thomas. Should the relationship between council and the mayor be open and honest?
You know, that's a wonderful question. And I just wish it would happen. But in all the years that I have been there, it has not happened. Yes, you cannot deal with making laws and doing due diligence if both of you aren't working together. The mayor comes out and he says, well, council, I want you to do such and such a thing. And the council says, okay, show me. Tell me how prudent this is and how it benefits the residents. He tells you, well, this is this and this is that, and we do this. Then he comes back through the back door and says, well, I didn't say that. That ain't what I said. That ain't how it works. Okay, he says he has an open door. If you walk through the open door and you sit down and you all talk about things, things don't happen. But if you work together and you do things together, the city should move forward. And I have handed out an olive branch to the mayor, and he cut the olive branch half in two. So what is it that you need to do? You need to have an administrator that is open, honest with the public and with his council, because the council does hold the appropriation and the reality. It makes the law that he has to stand by. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Mrs. Gowdy, the same question. Should the relationship between council and the mayor be open and honest?
Yes, I do. It should be open, and yes, it should be honest. And if the mayor can't be honest, and if council can't be honest, and if you negotiate on the table, and if it's not like it is, then he should be held accountable, and they should be held accountable, because that's not no good relationship right there. That's just like the cookie is what? Crumbling. So to have an opportunity of communication, of knowing that if he's have this pattern like this, then you need to check behind the mayor and make sure, is what it is, or is you saying one thing and doing another? And that's what's been happening. So yes, I believe that we should have that communication of opening, not only just with each other, but be honest with the resident, because they coming up here and have some concerns. Quit lying to us.
Thank you, Mrs. Gowdy. Mr. Baker, the same question. Should the relationship between council and the mayor be open and honest?
Thank you, Mr. Mays. When I got back to the city in 2008, I, again, worked under that administration. And one of the things that I vowed upon as a representative of the public, as a public employee at the time, was to be responsible to the needs and the wants of the community. Since joining council, that has not been a good relationship between the council and mayor. We have a strong mayor form of government, and the relationship is oftentimes contentious, because just like a baby can cry over spilled milk, when you don't get what you want, a person does cry, or he, raises, extreme objection. We had problems with timeliness, legislation coming down to the office late. We had some problems with communication, not being invited to certain venues, certain events that were taking place around the city. And we had some problems when council took a stance on something which was right, because I seek advice and I'm not going to take any stance on something that's not right. I act in the best interest of the public. But when you take a stance on something and a person does not have the right motives, therein lies some contention. And I heard a long time ago from a mentor of mine. He said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I really appreciate him for telling me that. I'll stand for something. It may not be all the way right in your eyes, but know that my intent within my heart is pure. Because I have a lot of people watching me that judge me upon what it is that I do in this elected office.
Thank you. This is the last question, and then we will entertain some questions from the, well, I'm going to ask these a rebuttal, but from the audience, we will ask you to ask questions, not making statements, nor impugning the character of anyone. Ask a question that is germane to this city. This is the problem that we have, and we asking you now to ask questions that to move our city forward. But this is the last question I will ask this panel, and I will yield to the audience if they have any questions. And then we will have a rebuttal, closing remarks from the candidates. This is the last question, and it goes to, I believe it's, no, I think you're at the last one. This one goes to Gowdy. Okay. It goes to you, Mrs. Gowdy. What stimulated you to run for council?
Can I have a point of order? One of the candidates just came in. If she can.
I'm sorry, she's delayed.
All right, what did you say?
What stimulated you to run for council?
Oh, because concerned about the people, and like I said, it's in my spirit, and the Lord really had told me that I can run for council. I put Him first in everything to make my decision, and I prayed about it, and then I'm being about it now since I got my answer.
Okay, Mr. Baker, we're just going down the line this time. What stimulated you to run for council?
What stimulated me to run for council is that, again, I am passionate about my community. I love my community, done nothing but represent this community positively. I've sought the proper educational avenues to represent in elected office. I've had outstanding career representations that make me overly qualified for this office. And my ambitions towards this community are to see this community revitalized, and that it take another avenue to substantiate growth and economic development. And so with that in mind, I again am passionate about this community. I'm grateful to be a proud graduate of this community, and I look forward to serving another 4 years.
Mrs. Thomas, the same question. What stimulated you to run for council?
Well, 12 years ago, I had done everything that I could do for the labor union. After being with the labor union for 17 long years, I said, well, it's time for me to move on and let a younger individual get involved, which was my vice president. So when I decided to do that, I was near my retirement. And I don't think it was good for me to sit there and hold up a job when somebody else that's younger and more vibrant and can take the strings and keep going. You're supposed to reach back and pull people up. So I decided, hey, I'm in my community. I got things that need to be done in my community. So I started looking around to see what wasn't being done. And I talked to my residents, I talked to my neighbors, I talked to my friends, and I said, I think I can do a little bit more as a council person. And I was encouraged. I jumped in there both feet, and my experience has taken me where I needed to go. My residents have been steadfast and very supportive, and I love them for that. And I am comfortable being a council person. I am comfortable going outside of East Cleveland and representing East Cleveland. When I was on the board of PERS, they used to say Cleveland. I said, there's an E in front of Cleveland. Thank you.
Thank the council candidates. for the form, and I apologize to the whomever the other candidate is, he just came in, but it would be unfair for us to put her up there now. But
She can say, we'll let her say something.
let me finish. Thank you. Now I'm going to give the audience an opportunity to ask the question if you have a question of the candidates. Question, not statement, nor impugning. If you get personal, I'm going to cut you off.
Okay,
And if candidates, no.
Right.
You first.
Oh, Hadisha? Hadasha, okay, all right. Get the mic. Thank you.
Huh?
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to
Direct your
know
question
Put
to
the mic up.
for all of you.
Yes.
Yeah. 10
30
minutes.
seconds.
Okay, you spend 10 minutes on this one.
I'm sorry.
10 minutes.
No, you just leave the mic up here and stand here. You can ask the question. Just stand on the side.
Okay. What is your plan to bridge the gaps between our youth and the leadership with East Cleveland? And also, do you have any goals set in place to help our young kids who are going through schools? Like, I had a couple ideas about starting an apprenticeship program to give our young children something to do. And if I become board member, that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to starting. So that's what I want to ask. What plans or what goals do you have, or do you have any goals set to be able to help the youth going forward, to help them stay committed to maybe doing the same things that you guys are doing, because children do what they see. So that was my question.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to, did you, okay. Is there a knowledge?
That's okay. Go ahead. It doesn't matter who.
First of all, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Joey Graham. I am running for Ward 4. I'm a longtime resident in East Cleveland, born and raised. I work in East Cleveland. A lot of people know me as the mail lady. That's what they call me. And I do want to apologize for being late. My grandmother celebrated her 91st birthday today. So as far as to answer your question, I consider myself an ambassador of the youth. Everywhere I go, I have the youth with me. I was a camp counselor growing up in the city, right on Hayden. And as a matter of fact, I involve the youth with everything that I do. We just had 2 protests on Noble Road, just protesting the dump. And who was out there with me? The kids. They made their own signs. And you're absolutely right. What they see, you have to be an example for them. And what they see, they're going to do. And we have to bring and encourage the youth to come to these meetings, encourage to get involved. They won't know unless they are here, seeing what's going on, understanding firsthand from all the way from the bottom to the top what goes on in city government. So as far as addressing your question, yeah, that's definitely something that we do need to have.
Thank you. I'm sorry, will you repeat your name again for me, please?
Joey Graham.
Joey. Thank you, Mrs. Graham. Next candidate, you have 30 seconds to answer the question.
Okay. Yes, the youth is part of I love the youth because we have a youth outreach that we help the children stay in school banquet to encourage them to stay in school. And they are part of our future. And to come in here to get some knowledge of what they're going to be facing in the long run, this might be the next president, of the United States, our next Congress, our next teacher, or next preacher, So to encourage our youth is to bring them into where we at right now, to let them know to get ready for job readiness at an early age. Show them how to dress for success, and tell them how to pull their pants up and hold their head up, and they are very intelligent. Our youth is faster than where we was, so they grab hold quicker than what we are when we was growing up. So I'm glad that you did bring that to our attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Gowdy. Mr. Baker.
Thank you. Some of the things, and I'll just hit on a few initiatives I've done during my tenure as on council and also as an educator. I was a former youth council advisor. That was the group of students who were ambassadors to the city of East Cleveland. They met one of the actors from CSI, Hill Harper. They went down to Case Western, spoke on the radio there. They handed out turkeys at the Martin Luther King Civic Center. They also handed out toys to help with Miss Carolyn Jones 1 year. So those are some proven things. I've also, stepped out and mentored a few students and also helped them pay for get jobs through the Youth Opportunities Unlimited. Also, I helped pay out of pocket for them to cut some lawns throughout the city this year.
Mrs. Thomas, same good question that you have.
Well, I raised 5 kids, and all of them had an attitude. And right now, the children have an attitude toward adults and politicians because they promise so much and give so little. They tell you what they're gonna do for you and don't do nothing. I'm involved with the children's shelter right now on Euclid, where there are children falling through the cracks. And I reached out to the school and talked to Miss Courtley, and Miss Courtley is going to deal with all the things that we have going.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. We only have 10 minutes here, and we ask you, I'm going to take the mic from you. If you don't ask the question, you're giving your assignment. So I ask you to ask questions.
Hello, panel. I would just like to ask, what is your plan to generate financial growth? And 2, about the distinction between the police and the youth. What would you do to help bridge the gap between youth and